Welcome to Edutainment TV Africa. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment.
Abusia, mama mo akwa aba. Hwe abusia me si enne eye pe king cry. Abusia, yem panimfo binom eye debate ane wo mom kese si akan nom enya football da bi akan sie no eye de all clear ni din ene de ode asem no to ne so se waye bibi te sasa eti me sai bre san se de me pesa wo hwe ne ewa pa me pesa onya tre ma me na wutie nsem ne na hu de ekọ ewo eye political side ane eti tie nsem no efa ema me
simply intended to address a number of baseless allegations and deliberate falsehoods concerning the operations and financial health of the Ghana Gold Board that have been propagated by certain individuals in recent times. Of particular concern is a persistent campaign of lies being waged by one Alexander Afenyomakin and his ilk against the Gold Board over the past couple of months. This sustained, relentless campaign reached a reckless crescendo yesterday at a press conference addressed by him within the precincts of Parliament. Afenyomakin's modus operandi, which can no longer be allowed to go unanswered, is to repeat the same tired falsehoods as often as possible and on many platforms as he can, in the hope that repetition will somehow transform fiction into facts and mislead unsuspecting members of the public. The Gold Board therefore deems necessary that the record be set straight once and for all to prevent him and others like him from continuing to distort the remarkable performance and transformational impact of the Ghana Gold Board. First, ladies and gentlemen, Afenyomakin and his followers alleged on several occasions on the floor of Parliament and in the media that the Gold Board made losses in its gold trade operations in the year 2025. To settle this matter once and for all, I brought to this auditorium a copy of the annual report and financial statements of the Gold Board, prepared and published by the Auditor General, not Sammy Gyemfi and the Gold Board. We don't audit ourselves. Now, if you check page 12 of this report, you will see that the Gold Board on its own, from its own operations, generated total revenue of close to 1 billion Ghana cedis and kept expenditure just around 109 million Ghana cedis. And so that is what we mean by operational profit or surplus of 907 million. It means that if you took all the revenue we generated as an organization and you deducted our expenditure from it, we had 907 million left. Now, because in the 2025 budget statement, government budgeted a revolving seed capital as its equity for the newly established Gold Board of 4.5 billion Ghana cedis, which monies hit our accounts on or about 30th of December 2025. Those funds had to be added to the revenue of the Gold Board because they were not encumbered, they were not depleted, they were not dissipated. And that is why the overall surplus is 5.4 billion. And this reporting was done by the Auditor General under what is known as IFSAS guidelines. And the chartered accountants and auditors understand this very well. So we brought 50 copies and we are going to distribute to you the audited financials of the Gold Board for 2025.
Reject any attempt to answer the public concerns merely by pointing to Gold Board reported surplus. Yes, we concede that it is the Auditor General that has conducted an audit, but the Auditor General was not given access to the full picture. If the Auditor General knows that indeed the costs of Gold Board's transaction were borne by Bank of Ghana, Auditor General would not declare surplus in its accounting reporting. Therefore, Gold Board profitability and the profitability of the transaction it executed for BOG are two different matters. When initially the fifth review raised concerns about the gold program, the discussion centered around an estimated 214 million quasi-fiscal loss identified through the September 2025 report. The IMF explained that losses arose from the trading activities, fees, and exchange rate movement, and specifically called for greater transparency, governance, and risk management around the Gold Board linked channel of the domestic gold purchase program. We were subsequently told that Gold Board itself had made no loss. However, Section 13 of IMF country report, as quoted supra, stated. The real question, therefore, is what did Ghana lose from the transaction? The IMF has now answered the question, which I've quoted supra, for the full year, an equivalent of 22 billion cedis. The Ghanaian taxpayer ultimately stands to lose on this.
Is the IMF report on selected issues, which was published on the 4th of August. Paragraph 13 of that report speaks about the domestic gold purchase program. And that is what it says. DGPP operations have generated significant losses for BOG. Losses in 2024. So if you are watching me, you should be asking yourself whether there was gold board in 2024. Losses in 2024 were equivalent to almost $400 million, 0.5% of GDP, 1/3 of which were related to gold for oil. In 2025, the significant scaling up of domestic gold purchase operations led to losses of over $1.7 billion. So the IMF tells you what led to the loss. They are saying the significant scaling up of the program. It is there, black and white. Then, almost entirely related to G4R Dory purchases. This amounted to a loss of 17% of the value of Dory gold sold by the BOG. Losses accrued on gold trades are a combination of service. This was the only reference to the gold board here. So listen, losses accrued on gold trades are a combination of service and asset fees paid to gold board, discounts on gold sold to off-takers, and most importantly, exchange rate losses from the spread between Forex Bureau rates paid to purchase gold and the CD reference rate used for BOG accounting. Survey data suggests that Ghanaian ASGM prices are among the highest in the region. These accounting losses partly reflect valuation effects rather than economic cost. Blah, blah, blah. These are the relevant portions. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are the words of the IMF. Not to suggest that the words of the IMF are sacrosanct, but it is important for us not to attribute to the IMF what they have not said. They have not said that the gold board is the one that caused the Bank of Ghana to lose $1.7 billion, as I have clearly demonstrated to you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, aside the fact that the new false narrative of Afenyo-Markin grossly misrepresents the IMF's findings, I will demonstrate to you with facts and sound logical reasoning that fees paid to an agent by a principal based on a contract for agreed services cannot be reasonably said to be the reason for losses incurred by the principal. And that the IMF mischaracterized fees paid to the gold board as one of the components of losses incurred by the Bank of Ghana in 2025 under the domestic gold purchase agreement. According to the IMF, that loss was as a result of the scaling up, the expansion of the program. The IMF also stated that these accounting losses partly reflect valuation effects. In particularizing what the IMF considers to be components of this loss, the IMF listed 3 things, which included fees paid to the gold board under the domestic gold purchase program. This is the true context within which the name of the gold board featured relative to losses under the DGPP in that reference IMF reports. So I want to read the relevant portions of that report, because most of the times they come in the media and they say the IMF has said that gold board has made a loss of 1.7 billion, and nobody questions them to point out which part of the IMF report said that. They say that the IMF says that gold board is the reason for the loss, and nobody questions them. And we are all talking about IMF report, IMF report. The fact checkers must get to work. What does this IMF report say? Now, let's first of all start with the seat review on the ECF, that report published by the IMF just a few weeks ago. And the provision in that report on domestic gold purchase program can be found on page 27, paragraph 50. This is what the IMF said. The domestic gold purchase program weighed on the financial sustainability of the BOG. The DGPP, which is the short form of domestic gold purchase program, on which the BOG relied to accumulate reserves to intermediate effects to the private sector, has generated losses of 22 billion, which is 1.5% of GDP in 2025. A government cost-sharing agreement at end 2025 involving the transfer of bonds with a par value of 5 billion cedis in March 2026 resulted in the breach of the ceiling on BOG claims on the central government and public entities at the end of December 2025 and end March 2026. In July 2026, the BOG Gold Board and the government signed a memorandum of understanding formalizing the transfer of the domestic gold purchase program activities from the BOG to Gold Board and eliminating related BOG quasi-fiscal risk. An external auditing firm is conducting a special audit of the domestic gold purchase program from its inception, and the inception is 2021, whose results should be available in 2026 Q3. Domestic gold purchase program related losses coupled with high cost of OP market operations and exchange rate valuation losses resulting from CD appreciation worsened the BOG's negative equity position to 6.7% of GDP. This is all they said.
The impression that because we are defending ourselves against a lie peddled against us, then it means that we are saying, oh, Bank of Ghana is to blame, or we are throwing Bank of Ghana under the bus. No, that is not the case. The position of the Gold Board has been stated by my good self, my humble self, time without number, that the losses recorded by the Bank of Ghana under the domestic gold purchase program since inception, not just in 2025, is not because of mismanagement or incompetence by the current managers, but those losses are a product of policy design. It was the MPP that designed the domestic gold purchase program that way, that they will not pursue profits, but they will pursue foreign exchange, because at the time they had no access to the capital market to borrow on the Eurobond market and bring in dollars to show up, the currency. So they chose foreign exchange over profit by policy design.
Kwa mufasu design the policy, that's how policy they come. I know we can design it, and before we can design it.
Since 2021, that program never made profit. And that is why they announced in the year 2022 November that effective January 2023, they were going to buy gold at spot prices. It was the MPP that introduced spot gold purchases incompetence. But in this case, you see measurable, economic benefits, unprecedented currency appreciation of 41%, which led to inflation coming down for 12 consecutive months. You saw a drop in the public debt by more than 100 billion Ghana cedis. a significant savings to the government. That is what we are saying, that this was the price the Bank of Ghana had to pay under this program, poorly designed by the erstwhile government for the stability we enjoy at the Bank of Ghana.
Intino Parliament bia the motion for forever. Some motion where you've been dealing with the $1.7 billion, which is the equivalent of 22 billion. And no, sa ekan and you have some gold board. It is a gold board before so my card to dia. Omudi can chair new majority leader. Onimian for Agaga, non tia say. And Koban is over on 189 no ever block. Yes, sir, speakers who say emotion ever more for technicalities in back. Now Koban say, yeah, prove it, yeah, say for the sake of governance, for the sake of transparency. We, the minority, will not relent on this. The Gold Board has thrown a challenge that it is ready to debate this issue. If indeed it is ready, then we propose to the majority, don't stop us the second time. Don't use your 189 to vote against an invitation to Gold Board for a probe into what accounted for the 22 billion losses. Don't use your supermajority to stop scrutiny. It is your own man, your darling boy, that called for this. So, majority, please, our motion is ready. We will file it before we get back next week, and we pray that you, the majority in Parliament, will fully coerce the minority. Something must be done. We need money for the hospitals. If government says there's no money to complete the Agenda 111 project, if government is still borrowing, yet it can find 22 billion, and this 22 billion, according to the IMF, is vanished into thin air. Sikana ira, sikana she, sikana wahi. Interi atem didi. Yesre, yet ye juma yesre Ghana mai. Munta yechi. Nebe bia 22 billion won. Ye nya ye hwehwe. Enye personal attack, enye obi, ena sebi ye jealous, and ye tie no, ena ye lady. This is a complete policy failure, institutional failure. By promising reset and living up to expectation. Private sector they are burdening the private sector with taxes. Ghana for electricity are buying almost 30% electricity tariffs. Who got up petrol? Almost charge 1 Ghana cedi per liter. I say to me, and you know, promise here 1 job, 3 shifts. I don't assume
for a parliamentary probe, and I've already stated on public record that I'm waiting with bated breath for Afenyo Markin's invitation. And I don't know why he's delaying and holding press conferences when, as minority leader, he can get the Public Accounts Committee to summon me tomorrow or today, and I will appear. I saw him dabbling in some confusion about standing orders of parliament and the fear that the majority may oppose a call for a probe into this matter. Well, I have, in all humility, reached out to the new majority leader in Parliament, Honorable James Agaga, and I pleaded with him that even if Afenyo delays in extending this invitation, he should extend the invitation to me. And I'm ready to come tomorrow. You don't need any special motion. You don't need any special order by the Speaker. Just get Public Accounts Committee to invite us. Ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to urge you, our friends in the media, in all humility and the Ghanaian public, to hold Afenyo Markin and others who make allegations about Gold Board losses to the strictest standard of proof, particularly in the light of the detailed facts I have placed before you today. Let me state that the persistent noise from people like him does not arise from any genuine quest for accountability or any sincere desire to interrogate the operations of the Gold Board. Rather, it is a part of a calculated smear campaign aimed at undermining the significant contribution Gold Board is making to the economic transformation agenda of President Mohammed's administration. Smear campaign by persons who have specialized in sophistry and political blackmail in pursuit of selfish ends. These are devious extortionists who will come at you with lies to tarnish your reputation in the hope that you will fold and settle for what they call, quote, compulsory arbitration and oil their palms. Well, this time around, they found their own target. The Ghanaian people deserve serious public discourse founded on facts, evidence, truth, and not endless recycling of falsehoods.
Cities, the two flow yoko. Now I got down near Sefa, a Japadia, a sumbo for Brands, I'm obey. Then go for bear, the abbey home. See, me bow, wait here. Some 22 billion losses here, almost gold board are booking. And then who bill? As a campaign, I had to bet bill. Oh, we have said yet here. Yes, what we are phone, sir. Now I shall, sir. We are saying, I want to say to me, bow same. Let's say, what the data will be. Should ye? And this is for them, MP before Bokrono, MP before Bokrono, MP before to say, MP before to say. Gold Kakamunkotono, gold, Munkoton, gold. Mogoboka 22 billion cities. Afibako.
This is politics is a contact sport. And so when you are involved in politics, you are involved in boxing. You should be ready for tackles, you should be ready for punches. And some of us are vaccinated against political mischief. We've taken the Sammy Gyemfi. Under whose tenure the Gold Board has exported 170 tons of gold through former channels and brought into this country over 17 billion United States dollars in 1.5 years. Fees onerous bill terms. Under your tenure, not a gram of gold produced in Ghana was refined in Ghana. One bar. You take it as comic relief. And it is very sad. See, when we say this, he says we are not insulting him. Or Papa Uzuankoma or Seichi Mensabos. Look at the depth and the substance of these personalities. When they rose to speak on Parliament, look at the command they commanded across the aisle. And look at how this seat has now been so bastardized and depraved by a noisemaker. Research and get his facts right. So, in his brain. I'm not afraid of any intimidating tactics because we are serving Ghana in good conscience and our resource and posterity will speak for us.
Abusia, when you say Enia, uti ye, yewura, Ato Forson, oni yewura, Sammy Gyemfi. Just say Ghana Gold Board, see you, aha, ane, womo. And I just say, one more air crash sound na abusuya, one more press a penny for from a benyanim, not waiting as some to one away, so didn't ask some to one any year. The word just enchi the more bridge the moose what they need the abba abusuya, you ra Ato Forson, or say, and 1.7 billion dollars no, and wahin. Sammy, yewra Sammy, and yewra Sammy say, bra, na menya analysis, mount. From me baby, and a meba, na maba analysis, into abusia, ye ni gusu dia che, debe fi babia, ye de baba abesumu, yewra yen semfu frame, abusia, and the Bible verse, me person ye shia bibi, womu, Matthew chapter 6 verse 33. Be ekwa ho efa ema mesa. Abusuya, ye wonyama nan bi wo sa bia ye ho no mu a. Abusuya. Awose wu. Because and said the dameka and your man kitting be etimi block ye nshira timi block ye die ama dia wo se ba ye na brabo mu no na ahwere ye mami kai first one ni yenko ye don't let your side hustle become your master sha emma enei dia wo bra ho no emedi so emma dia wo famu nne emma how bi ete wo so nne enni wo sunkunim e wo so try so be di sadie ne sunkunim atoda hobby bi wo ho no ma adebo ya jama na ye hobby ye ntimi njai ya yama na ka ye ho ye ntimi njai se ha ye we ya brabo mu a we must put a stop to it and we must start from somewhere minka se bibi wo honum na ye ebedanu hobby a easy to leave it but if you try just try with something I know you can do we believe in you Annie we believe in you yanko next one also focus abusuya hwe yemu bebre ya lack focus in life let's focus so when you do to say bia when you edi say oh me pese me ton eniema me pese me bie store me pese me say at least figure out ade baako choose baako say wow we dey choose baako say na fu wani di akire she u choose ade baako di wani wakoma wadwene nyina di akira you achieve it without hustling obo say won sabeka obra wani kura anya den enda abusuya e wasi ya start work e wo ye ho eso yanto aso third one no integrity is your CV abusuya umudie ya ka said integrity umudie sha ene bibia obey wo social media ne so no obo se na agentre ha ene uko social media ne so a yesi bibia ba de azigi abusuya me fa sa kwanya we so atu emaba wa bo sisu abobra genzi maba mi tu efo mi sumi ya genzi ni bi afutu amintu ene say share from now till the end of your life sa cha ho send me yenda na mintwa sister obese sister bra enye bida share onim da odi ani bepie no da waye ninka krawa focus abobra no akonanim na nyame aya wadom ama chese ubusa akora udin akora betimi abo no sabre na de wo ye na oji say oh it's just for fun I'll be just looking at it so that I'll feel well no that is when this thing will be coming out and your reputation will be ruined now say na ye be ruining no crampo no na de ya gia free won sam no enya asem keto eti abusua yemfanya afutuo integrity ehuhia umudie ehuhia papa yenkana yenhye so yentoa eso control what you can control abusua asasi so yebai ye woniema bebre wo honom a you can't control it eye obi adie so oba be fatoa so ba bia wo aduro na wutimi control no kram Abusia oba pa abdenya akona atemi nka me the entertainment trends eba sum wono macro.
Welcome to Edutainment TV Africa. Make sure to subscribe, like, and comment.